Alright, so today we're going to be analyzing and sorting graphs. Specifically, we're going to be identifying the domain and range in all these different situations. So this is our worksheet for today. And let's start off by writing down the vocabulary words. So I want you to remember that when we do vocabulary and you're writing down these definitions, that you actually think about what these words mean as opposed to just writing everything down without thinking. Okay? So domain is the set of input values, typically, let's write it over here, that says the x values. Okay, and so range is going to be the opposite of that. Range is the set of outputs, so output values, typically, it's right over here, the y values. Okay, so I'll give you guys a chance to write that down just for a moment. All right, so in our first set of problems, like 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all the same type. I'm gonna do 1 and 2 with you guys, and then you guys do 3 and 4 on your own. We're going to read the instructions. Identify the domain and range of each ordered pair. Okay. So once again, domain is a set of input values, typically the x values. So we're going to look for the set of x values, okay? And when you look at these pairs, I'm just going to write over here, you have two numbers. The x one is always first, and the y is always second. So when we are looking for the domain, we're going to be looking for all the x values. So let me highlight them first. X values are the first number. X values are part of the domain, okay? So everything that I'm highlighting in blue is the x value / part of the domain. It's the first number. First number is -3. In the next parentheses, the first number is -2. In the next parentheses, the first number is -1, then 0, then 1. These are your x values, so these numbers put together is going to make your domain. And how do we write it out? So to write it as a set, because we want the domain to be a set. To write it as a set, we're going to do these curly brackets. So just like you see in our problem, they put a curly bracket around the ends. We're going to start off with a curly bracket, and then we list all those blue numbers. -3, -2, -1, 0, 1. And then what do we end it with? Another curly bracket, but to close it this time. So these are our domain numbers, okay? Let's do the range. I'm gonna do the range in, I don't know, green, because why not? Okay, so our range, let's take a look. Range is the set of output values, typically the y values. So we want to deal with the y values, which inside the parentheses is the second number. So inside our first parentheses, our second number is -6, then here's -4, -2, 0, and 2. So we need to list these out. So when we list it out, we want to make sure we list it out with a curly bracket and start listing out those green numbers this time. -6, -4, -2, 0, 2, and then end it with a curly bracket. Okay, so all we're doing here is listing out the first numbers for domain and listing out the second numbers for range. Okay, let's see if you guys can figure out the domain and range of number 2. So over here in class, I'm gonna pause the video and you guys get to figure it out yourself. All right, so now we're unpaused and I want you guys to double check and to see if you got it right. So if you did not get it right, that's okay. This one's just a little bit trickier, okay? And so if you made any mistakes, don't worry, just correct yourself. It's all part of the process of learning, okay? Mistakes help us learn. All right, so let's start off by finding our domain. So domain is my blue. Domain is the set of input values, typically the x values, which is the first number. Let's highlight all the first numbers. Okay, so those are all the first numbers, and now we're going to list them out. So we start off with a curly bracket. That is not the prettiest curly bracket, but it's totally fine. There we go. So we have -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Okay, let's go on to range. So for range, we want to highlight everything in green. Remember, range is my green number. Range is the y values. And if you guys have colors, I also recommend that you use colors to associate different ideas together. This is called color coding, and it's scientifically proven to help your brain associate ideas. So colors will help your brain if you color code. So I color code, and if you have colors, color code also. All right, let's highlight all of the y values because range relates to the y values, which is the second number. So highlight all those second numbers. Okay, all my second numbers are highlighted. Let's list them out. Curly bracket. Start with 9, 4, 1, 0. And then I see another 1. And I see another 4, but I don't actually have to write it. Why? Because I already wrote them. You don't have to write it again. So I know I said this one's trickier. Probably most of you wrote it again a second time. So you don't have to. And you can just cross it out. It's okay. You can end your curly bracket here. So we don't have to write the duplicates, okay? Those duplicates, you can just write it one time and that's it. It'll cover it all. Okay, so now you guys are going to do 3 and 4 on your own. And so if you have any questions, remember it's your responsibility to ask me.